Welcome to Your Voice Must Be Heard podcast. I'm your host, Marquita McGee, a happy wife, proud mother, career woman, and voiceover artist. I created this podcast as a place to be encouraged through wisdom for different aspects of life. We all navigate through the many challenges of life, feeling unfulfilled in our purpose, and we believe there's more. We will explore in this podcast keys to unlock the door to the next level and transform. I'll be interviewing people who have found unconventional wisdom that catapulted them to success in business, health, relationships, and their gifts in the arts. We will reflect on how you can apply unconventional wisdom to achieve your success, affirming what you believe and helping you create your transformation story. Come along with me into this week's episode to capture this wisdom and have forward movement in your life. We're at the last episode for the season. Today is about sharing the final thoughts on wisdom. I also want to share my biggest takeaways or wisdom that I gained from the episode. So let's go back to the stories that were shared from the 4 different pillars: relationships, business, arts, and health. Now, each story was intended to give us thought-provoking perspectives on different aspects of life, while also thinking about leaving wisdom for our children. In addition, there were relationship affirmations, business secret narrations, and then 2 of the topics that we had were broken down into 2 parts. The arts and the health both had a part 1 and a part 2. The stories were so intriguing that they needed 2 parts. So let's start with story 1 on relationships. We heard from the awe-inspiring journey of Fagin Adams, how her life intersected at rock bottom and God's plan. How when she gave up her life, she gained life that was specifically designed for her, letting God write her love story to a flourishing life in motherhood and helping other women find their purpose. Now for the takeaway. The biggest takeaway for me was wrong relationships leads down a path to wrong destinations. As I reflected on that wisdom nugget, I started to investigate my own relationships and examine if they're impactful and are they reciprocal and how are they being built? What's the value within them? And then I made adjustments. So for me, it meant for some of my relationships, I needed to invest more time into them. There's power in building connections and relationships, and at times I felt like I just took my relationships for granted or didn't really feel that I needed to invest more time into them. Also, I recognized relationships in my life, whether it been my business or my career, that I just had to walk away from. The ones that were not right for me, again, because those types of relationships leads to wrong destinations. And so I had to reevaluate those. Story number 2, business. We heard from the powerful, multifaceted businesswoman, Rhonda Lawing. She shared with us the beginning of building her business in the hair care industry and how that morphed into other businesses, resulting in multiple streams of income for herself. She also was faced with different roadblocks within her personal life, and those also intersected within her business, and how she found resilience and strength in adversity, and then pitfalls to watch for as a business owner, and pitfalls when life tries to throw curveballs as an attempt to throw you off your journey. Now for the takeaway. So the biggest takeaway for me was, in this season in my life, it's twofold. So on one side, I want multiple streams of income. So I gotta stop trying to put all my eggs in one basket, as we say. My husband talks all the time about diversifying. It's how we operate in our household, but for some reason I couldn't see that in my own personal stuff, So I thought about it. How can I increase in my voiceover business while also working my 9 to 5? So my personal desire or long-term goal is to eventually leave my 9 to 5 and be an entrepreneur full-time. But until then, don't try to throw that out. Work both together. Why not make money on all sides, the salary life and the freelancer life? So that's how I applied that wisdom to my life to achieve multiple streams of income. Third story, the arts. John Wayne Bailey led us into his life of arts as a musician, producer, worship leader, philanthropist, and spreading the good news. There was so much in his story that we had to create a part 1 and part 2. He talked about how he is inspired to create music, the instrumentation that goes into it, his rise to the top of the music industry while at the same time falling swiftly to the bottom. How one of his greatest joys is giving back, especially to the young people. Now for the takeaway. This particular episode hit me at a time in my life that I really had to reevaluate my priorities. We're looking at arts here, looking at the art of putting God first. Now, we say that and we have good intentions and we actually believe we're doing it. So I want to share a quick story with you, what happened to me. It was a really pivotal moment for me considering where I am in my life. As I'm building relationships, as I'm building business, using my gifts and talents that God gave, also in the busyness of my life, still trying to prioritize my family needs, my career life increased. I was working late hours and just the stressors of life was trying to weigh me down. And it was in that moment I realized my time with God was becoming less and less. I'm busy creating all these different things and the Creator is giving me, He's blessing me with good things in my life and still there. I mean, He hadn't left, but my time with Him that I would put first was getting put last. I could feel His presence slowly getting farther away. And I'm a true believer that seeking Him first in His kingdom, when you do that, everything else you need will be added. Time, peace, direction, grace, strength, all those things that you need will be added. It was in that moment that the Spirit of truth revealed to me the wisdom I needed through the many stresses of my life. Don't forget the art of putting God first. And I use the term art because for me it is that. The definition I'm referring to is art as in a skill at doing a specific thing, typically one acquired through practice. So one of my desires or daily practices that I strive towards consistently is my time with the Lord. Each day, prayer, conversation, meditation of His Word, just sitting still to listen to Him speak back. And then being accessible, available to doing what He wants me to do to bring others to Him. Doing this day in and day out, you become proficient. You develop this skill or the art of it. And it's part of the relationship that I have with Him. And relationships you care about, you put first. He is the reason I have what I have, and so I had to put everything on pause, including this podcast, until I got back into the rhythm and flow of the art in putting God first. It worked for Fagan, it worked for Rhonda, and it worked for John Wayne, what we're talking about in this story. So as we talk about arts and gifts and talents and being creatives, we can't do it without the Creator. Creatives cannot do it without the Creator. You can try, and you may have some measure of success, but godly wisdom brings long-term success, period. Story number 4, health and wellness. We went back to school and got educated about the human body. Dr. Marco Belazier schooled us on the nervous system and spine and how the body functions physically, neurologically, athletically. Now for the takeaway. The biggest takeaway for me was how this self-regulating machine, our bodies, automatically functions and keeps us alive, and what our responsibilities are for it to thrive. How building the body for efficiency through resetting proper nerve signalings and functioning yields us big return. Our bodies are our biggest investment, and we can't have success in the other 3 areas, relationship, business, and arts, without our health and well-being. It sounds cliche, but it's true. How many times do we hear what we need to do to actually be healthy, but then we aren't consistently doing it over time. So be reminded what we learned in the intro of this podcast of what wisdom is. Wisdom is a form of intelligence. It's acquired knowledge and applied knowledge. That's what we want. That's what we need to take ourselves to the next level. So there's value in each of these episodes that if you intentionally listen and reflect, you will find what you need in order to solve your life's biggest challenges. I encourage you to choose a pillar that you identify with, whether it be health, arts, relationship, or business, or even all of them. Think about the story that you heard and the wisdom that was shared. And then finally, reflect on how you can apply this wisdom for transformation in your life. Season 2 is right around the corner. More wisdom within the same areas of business, careers, relationship, arts, and health, but it'll be slightly different topics within each of these pillars. We're going to focus on new voices being heard, their wisdom being shared with the world. Our aim is to go deeper to connect you to true wisdom that is God-fearing and transformational. So, I encourage you to connect and email us at voicemustbeheard@gmail.com. Leave us a comment, share your feedback or story, your transformation, either from the wisdom you heard from this podcast or whatever else you've tried. I'd love to share your story, and if you find the content of this podcast valuable, share it with others you think may benefit. So, see you in Season 2. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Your Voice Must Be Heard podcast. I hope the story you heard inspired and motivated you to take action for transformation in some aspect of your life. I would love it if you send an email with questions, share your enlightening moment, or profound wisdom you may have. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Your Voice Must Be Heard podcast. I look forward to hearing from you. See you in the next episode. Bye.